to the cloud, right? So at least the cloud hears it well. But having in Kabbalah, even those great Kabbalists that lived, like Rabbi Shemesh Bar Yochai and like the Ria Kodesh some 500 years back, nevertheless, for them, even once it was learned, it was called Torah Tanistat, the hidden philosophy, the hidden way of life. What's so hidden about it? Once I learned something is not hidden. That was the first question. And it still is a question. We're going to arrive in this lecture, please God, at an answer. Secondly, we spoke a little about the history. I spoke last week, especially already with Maya, that we befriended, and we understood that it's called, it started with Abraham Avinu through the book of creation, Sefer Yetzirah, handed it down to the relations through Moshe Rabbeinu, through Moses, down to Rabbi Shemesh Bar Yochai, who was a spark of his soul, according to Arizal. The Arizal is the Ria Kodesh, lived in Tzfat, Sefad, some 500 years back. He had Holy Spirit. He spent most of his life in a cave, or rather in a little shack or place next to the Nile in Egypt, where he grew up and where he raised a family. Once a week he used to come back home. That's how they used to do it then, right? And in his the end of his life, which was very short, he died at 37, 38, the last 2 years he came up to Tzfat. He met his best discipline, whose name is Rabbi Chaim Vital, right? He handed down to him everything we know today of the interpretation of the glass, the lens through which to look at the Holy Zohar and how to look at Kabbalistic items. And he explained that this secret kind of knowledge was given to us in a coded way. It's just an analogy. Whatever the Holy Zohar says, it's a beautiful story, but that's not what's meant. What's meant is the deeper analogy that is in the embedded. But again, once we know that interpretation, so even if it's decoded, why should it be called the hidden philosophy of life, the hidden way of life? It shouldn't be hidden. So something there we still have to explain, and it needs to be explained. He made a very big tumult, as it was, or in Yiddish, tumult, when he said that statement, and he was called to the High Supreme Court of Tzfat at the time, with 200 big giants of Jewry, big rabbis. And the question is, how dare you tell us that this is the interpretation of the Zohar? Who told you that? So he said to them, and it I didn't relate last week, the one who stands here between you and me, he told it to me. So they were shattered, because this was a man of Holy Spirit, and they knew he was very, very holy and pure man, and he related to God himself, and he received it through Elijah the prophet, who sat with him Chavruta, they learned together, one-on-one for many years next to the Nile before he made his appearance and exposure to the Jewish people. Now, we said that it all started with Abraham Avinu, right? Abraham, our forefather, and he is really the forefather of all religions today, all major religions, because Islam comes through Ishmael, who was his son. Christianity comes through his grandson, who was Esau. Buddhism comes through his children, when he was married to his second wife, Keturah, and he gave them all kind of names. What we see today, acupuncture and reflexology and all the martial arts and all the wisdom of the Chinese and the Japanese, that all comes from Abraham till today. Until today in India, they have in the shrines, they've got this little jar which they call the manna. So the many, many customs that they do keep from the time that they still remember from Abraham, the forefather. And the priests in China are called, or rather in Japan and in India, are called Abrahamians, which is after the forefather Abraham. So, and that's just in a nutshell. But there are many clues to understand that all major religions came from him. So why was he chosen and not you or me? What was his special power? So we related that and said that his special power was by virtue of abstinence, meaning he didn't grow up in natural circumstances. He grew up in a cave. He was a very bright, genius kid, never saw the world. And when the first time he's exposed to the big world, he sees it all at once. It's a shock to him. So he doesn't get stagnated by the sense or the power of habit, but he sees it all at once. And for him, what that means is there must be a God, or there must be an organizer. There's such an organized universe around us, somebody must have ordained it. There must be. So he goes and searches. Is it this tree? Is it the sun? Is it the moon? And by the way, we should know that in Hebrew, the word for sun is Shemesh, which means Shamash. It's a server. It will never be a god, even though in India, 800 million Indians every day in the Eastern tradition for thousands of years to worship the sun and the bow down to it every morning. Only in the Hebrew original, the sun is called Shemesh, which means it's a servant to God. And that's why Kabbalistically, it bows down, so to say, to the west every night to say, I'm only a servant, as big as I am. I bow down to my master, who is God. So he found God by virtue of elimination, said there must be a power that organizes all of this. And science agrees with him. We went into the theory of the Big Bang, saying that all of what we have today, which is called the yesh, the appearance of material which we have, came from a nothingness. So this is the concept of yesh me'ayin, of something, appearance of matter out of nothing, as science agrees to this. And as Kabbalists, especially the Ramban, Rabbeinu Moshe ben Nachmani, writes it in chapter 6 of Bereshit, where he gives his own explanation of the Torah, that's long before the theory of the Big Bang, that all the matter in this world came yesh me'ayin, something, matter, came out of the eye. Then Abraham goes and tries to define what is God. So the definition of God that he gave us are two definitions. One, he says that God is Ein Sof, which we would like to call in English eternal, infinite, almighty. But the real translation is wrong. Ein Sof means he doesn't have an end. He's endless, because I cannot define something endless. It's like a child says to his mother asks him, how much do you love me? He says, from here to the moon and back. He cannot define that. So I gave Maya last week an example. If I have this page in front of me, I can define it because it's an A4, which we're at 29.5 centimeters by 14.1, whatever it is. But when something is infinite, I don't have the measuring skills and tools to define, because I'm limited by my five senses. And therefore, the definition that Abraham, our forefather, gives us is by virtue of elimination and abstinence. He says, I don't know how to define God, so I call him the endless, Ein Sof. No end to him, because there is no definition. Nevertheless, he gives us another definition. That definition is Rotze le'etil nivrav. He wants, we know about God by definition, through Kabbalah, that he wants to benefit his creatures. And we see this benevolence all around the universe. The sun shines for all and gives us love and warmth and food and energy and health. And everything else is in abundance around us, right? Imagine we didn't have food around. So there's symbiotic relationship between people, between us and the animal world, the plant world. The whole world is full of harmony, except from us human beings, that we're not so harmonious with each other, right? But Shalom, Daniela. And how are you? Can you hear me, Daniela?
Yeah, I can.
Very good. So this is in English, because most people are in English, okay? So
No problem.
we're just going through last week's what we did in short for us to be on board. And I know it's a bit later wherever you are, so we appreciate the fact that you're on board with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so he realizes that all this matter came from nothing. He realized that God, by virtue of a default, is endless, which is Ein Sof. I can't define him. I don't have a Hagdara. I don't have borderlines. It's too big for me to define. I can't see him. He realizes also that this God is Hatov HaMeitiv. It's endless good that he wants to give us. And we will discuss later on, and you can question me. So how come there was the Holocaust? And how come we see the hospitals full of people that are crying out? And how come we see death? And so is God cruel or is he good? So the definition we have Kabbalistically to start with is God is all good. And I told you last week, Maya, that God is G-O-D minus O, God's G-O-D minus good, G-O-O-D equals zero. That's the definition. It's very nice in English. It works out beautifully, as we know. Later on, as we go along, we're going to define also other names of God, like Havaya and like Elohim, all kind of names, Tzvaot, all kind of names, Shaddai that you write on the mezuzah, all kind of names. But for now, at the beginning, I want to keep it simple. This is where we are going with it. And so as far as we got is almost here, just the last little bit before I open, because it is much, and I want you to meditate a little bit on it, contemplate, and ask questions or reflect with me if necessary. That is that the Rambam writes, there must be Matzurish, or there must be this God at the center of creation, because he is the creator. He is the planner, he's the designer, he is the programmer. We are the programmed, and the program is through the Torah. That's it. Because he said, the Rambam said, if you would think that there isn't such a programmer, that the God isn't there, high, loving intelligence, then nothing can be around, not the laws of the universe, no compassion between people, no morals, no law. Everything is hefkerut, everything is upside down and a chaos, just like the world was created. The world was created in chaos. That is in the Genesis, in Parashat Bereshit, and in this week's Parasha, which is Noach, again we come to chaos, which is the flood of Noach. That, by the way, they have found the ark, scientists, some years back. If you'd like, I'll find again the pictures and I can forward it to all of you through the email. So till here, this is Hakafa Aleph, right? The first Hakafa in Shmini Atzeret, in Simchat Torah. Now questions from you, if you have any on what we discussed. Yesh me'ayin, there is material from no material. There was the Big Bang. God is endless. God is all good. He is the first creator, and there's nothing but him. Enod milvado, right? And the only reason Aaron was chosen is not because he was greater in his mind than you. No, he wasn't. He wasn't this incredible genius more than you are. He just didn't suffer from the power of habit that we do. When that we do, I remember that my firstborn, he was born, I read it to my last week, that the first time they had a thunderstorm, he was shattered. So we all laughed. The reason we laughed is because we heard it so many times, we didn't take it to heart, but he did, because it was so new to him. What is this? Where does it come from? We don't ask anymore, what is this and where does it come from? Because the power of habit made us dull, made us, our senses blind and sleeping and stagnate. And he didn't suffer from this because he was raised all the time in the dark cave. When he sees it all at once, it's a shock. So he sees the creator straight away. And we don't, because it's just Mother Nature, right? So far reflection, friends, or questions on what I said. You can attack me from all directions. Don't shoot.
So
Surely
you said that
yes.
you said that you have both ex nihilo and
Yes.
also creation from chaos. So how can you
Yes.
have both, especially when Bereshit, God was hovering over the waters, and even in the second story in chapter 2, there's still stuff there before other stuff gets created.
Yes.
So and even when you use your Big Bang example, you have the material condensed into the area of the eye of the needle.
Yes.
But that still requires stuff that has to be condensed into the eye of the needle. So
yes.
How can you have simultaneously ex nihilo and also from chaos?
Beautiful, beautiful. A very good question. So, and by the way, this is an incredible analogy that the Kabbalists give us, and that is, and I'll give you the analogy first because it will make easier the question. So first of all, do you understand the question? The question is, if you say that all this stuff, and this stuff, we know this stuff is called 10 to the power of 86, which means 10 with 86 zeros afterwards. That's the number of atoms in the universe. I happen to know it because I happen to have a degree in it, but this is the number of atoms we have, not more, but it's enough. If I had this card of cash in my bank, that would be a nice story. 10 with 86 zeros. So Karen is asking, so if all this matter was condensed into one little black hole, so that's not ex nihilo, that's not out of nothing, we had this. So let's look at the analogy. The analogy is exact, and it's meant and it's intentional by God. When a sperm goes into an egg, before there was no sperm and there was no egg. There is no person in this world at all. And when the parents, so to say, create a person, that sperm that was before no sperm penetrate into the egg, and from that nothingness comes a whole person through division of the cells, and which is incredibly intelligent above any father and mother, because we don't know how it's done, till it becomes a whole person we see in front of us. The same applies to the universe, and that is the first concept in Kabbalah, which is called Yeshmein. There was no material, Caroline, Maya, Daniela, Shiri. There was no material. There was no all this stuff in one place. There was none. There was nothing. Then God said, Vayomer Elokim Iyo Veyo. Then God created energy and made it out of nothing. There was nothing there. All the stuff wasn't there. And then he brought it into existence. And that scientist says, well, there was 1 second before, and that's where we're going today. There were no laws of nature. There was no time. There was no space. There was really nothing. In once, that was 1 second before for eternity. From that second onwards, when God decided, and that's what science is, this material came to be, which nobody knows from where. We call it in science a black hole. And then boom, there was a big blast, and all this matter poured into the universe, and the results of that we see today. But that's why it's called Yeshmai, meaning before there was a nothing, and now there is a something that wasn't there. And I want to read to you, just to give you a proof to that, which is important, is as follows. There is a professor, two professors that speak about it. One is called Professor Vilnikin. He writes a whole book about he's one of the architects of the theory of the Big Bang. And he wrote it under one of his great articles, which is called Creating the Cosmos, Something Out of Nothing. This is a Christian scientist professor, Vilnikin. The other one is an Israeli professor, which happened to be religious. He happened to live in Beit Vagan in Jerusalem. His name is Dr. Carmel. Aryeh Carmel. He writes, science cannot, I'm translating from the Hebrew, science cannot understand or answer the question, why did all this universe start? We do not know this. However, something happens, there was no material and came into material, and this is where our book starts from this point. Why does it say point? Because all the universe was, the end of a needle. Nothing at all. And science agrees with this. Now, this is very important. Science knows how to answer the how. How babies formed, how fish formed, how mountains, volcanoes, tsunamis. But why? Science can never answer why. Kabbalah is not a philosophy. Kabbalah is way above philosophy and way deeper than philosophy. And it gives you answers as to the why, the real why. There are the many whys, the many alternatives that you can think humanly, philosophically, why the why. But Kabbalah says, what does it mean Kabbalah? We received through Moses, through Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, through Ari HaKadosh, this is the why, this is the real why. There can be other options, but this is the real why. That's why it's called Kabbalah. We received it from rabbi to pupil for thousands of years. This is the why. Can be many other whys, but this is the real why. Make sense, Caroline? Rabbi Caroline Sim.
Yes, it makes sense. I'm not trying to question you. I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
You can question me. You can question me.
There's a difference between like clarifying, so I understand what you're trying to say versus I'm not trying to like.
I'm used to Charuta from Yeshiva for many years. I'm used to heated argument. It's fine.
All right.
No, it's okay. You can shoot. Dr. Shili Regev, Minister, you want to ask? Anybody home? Maya, Daniela.
I am driving. I'm on the listening mode. I'm driving.
And you can listen more, understand. But if you want to ask anything or you want to question, more than welcome. Maya, so far so good?
Yes, it's good.
It's good. Daniela, question, understand, or you good? You good? Very good. Okay. Those people
I want
Yes, Shili.
I want you to clarify to whoever knows or doesn't know, who is the Rambam?
Yeah, the Rambam, thank you for asking. The Rambam in English is Maimonides. He lived some 850 years ago. He was the one who decoded the Torah into halakha, into the form of legal law. So most people hold him just a legal law person. and he was one of the greatest. And we have a statement in Hebrew that says, from Moshe, from Moses, till Moses, nobody came to this world like Moses. And this Moses means Moshe ben Maimon, which is his family name. So that's why it's called Maimonides. I met the chief rabbi of England some years back when I was a very young student in university in South Africa. And today, and he is the one who's the advocate of the Rambam when it comes to medical ethics. And today, around 800 universities around the world, they teach the Rambam, they teach Maimonides, because his ethics are the most modern, crucial ethics for any kind of society, especially when it comes to medical ethics. So he is the great decoder of this. When he finished to write his Yad Chazakah, his strong hand, as he called it, Yad in Gematria and in Hebrew is 14. He wrote 14 incredible volumes, which we happen to have at home in the garage of his, on all subjects. He actually took down all the oral law and he summarized into coded law. So the last day when he finished that, he went to sleep. And in his sleep came two people to him and said to him like this. So the one he recognized, it was his late father, Maimonides, who came in his dream to say, Yishar koach, kol hakavod. Thank you so much for finishing what you have to do. The other person, he asked his father in his dream, who is this man? I don't know him. Who is this man? So his father told him, don't you recognize this man that I brought to us to approve of what you've done? He said, no, I don't. I see that he's shining light. But who is he? He said, this is Moshe Rabbeinu. He came to say, Kol hakavod, Yishar koach, I really approve of what you've done. So this is the only time in history we have such a great man. So people think he was only a pshat, he was only a legal decoder of the Torah, only laws. But we have found many writings that prove in his words that towards the end of his life, he met an old man who is Rebbe Klomenos Hazaken, the old one, and he taught him Kabbalah. So the Rambam knew Kabbalah as well. So many of the giants of Jewry throughout the ages knew Kabbalah, but it funneled down through Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai especially, and later on through the Ari Kadosh. Daniela, any questions? We good? Good. Very good, very good. Okay, so now we're going to carry on, right? And again, if you want to ask, this is the time to take a breath and to ask Maya, all the rest, right? Because I'm going to take now the next leap of faith, and then we're going to take another short break and discuss it as well. The next concept in Kabbalah is the relativity. The relativity applies in Kabbalah. I'm not talking about the theory of relativity of Einstein, which is also pertinent here, but I'm talking about Kabbalah. When Moshe Rabbeinu is a time of great comfort, great good place between him and compassion and God and Hashem, he says, Hareni na et kvodecha. Please show me your real glory, your real essence. So Hashem answers back to Moshe. By the way, Moshe, Mem Shin Hei, take the letters backwards, is Hashem, because he was the only human being who spoke and saw the divine presence, the Shekhinah, face to face. That's why his name backwards is Hashem. You can play with your name later. We can do it later on this game and see what is your essence when you reverse your name around. Sometimes it's very interesting and strange and fun. So Moshe asked Hashem, please show me your real essence. So he said, Lo yireni adam v'cha. As long as you're alive, you cannot see me. You know why? Because we, in our lives, imagine this is life, we always see a dot here, a dot. We don't see the whole picture. At the end of life, God takes away the whole thing and says, here's the whole picture. And then we can start to see the full picture. God is a holistic counselor. We see the whole picture. And as long as we're alive, there's nothing to see. But the question is, so what are you telling us? When somebody passes away, the first thing that comes to them and attracts them, the divine presence, what we call in Hebrew, the Shekhinah. It's not God himself, but it's the divine presence that is something there to see or to feel, this embracement of incredible love and shining light, which takes a person away once they pass away. So we do see and feel and sense, and sense something once we pass away. But he tells him another incredible thing, and that's what I want to take. He says to him, Hine makom iti. Hine, there is makom, space with me. Who on earth can say, Here is a space with me. Usually I say, you know where I am? I'm in Arizona, and I'm pure Arizona. And every one of us has got I'm in a certain place. I'm in location. You ask your GPS, where are you? Phoenix, Arizona, wherever you are. Who on earth can say, I bring a place with me? Only God can say, I am not in the place, but the place is inside me. It's an incredible thing. We didn't pay attention to this, but it's right there written in the Torah, which means that he teaches us the relativity of time and space. And it's very important. I'm going to go through this slowly, because now it's new. When the world was created, as Caroline asked, there was nothing. There was no space. There was no time. There was no laws of science. There was nothing. Nothing. That's what science says, and Kabbalah agrees. Who is the source? The Ramban, Moshe ben Nachmani, the Nachmanides, some at the same time about of the Rambam. He was a great law coder as well as a great Kabbalist. He lived at the same time of the Rambam in Spain, and they had two different paths of life, how to go about it. So everything came into being there, and from that time onwards, we can define time, we can define the laws of nature, the laws of science, and space. But before that, there is none. So all of time, and it's very important, that we experience today is relative. For example, we're having a good time together, the time flies like this. You're sitting in an exam that you know nothing about, or in a lesson that you're very bored about. Oh, the time will go forever, because you don't care, because you don't want to be there. So time and space are related to the consciousness of our minds. Before Shabbat, we know Kabbalistically the time flies. It's a funnel of time. As late as Shabbos will come in, you never have time for anything. As late as Pesach will come in, you never have enough time. It's not because you're very busy, because something in the time is not linear. Kabbalah says, and Shili knows it, that on Shabbat, if you learn on Shabbat anything to do with Torah, it's worth 75 hours during the week. If you learn Kabbalah during Shabbat, it's worth 1,000 hours during the week. The reason, because it's like a black hole, because we will learn later on, Sunday is a partner with Monday. Sunday is day of chesed, of day of compassion and kindness. Monday is a day of judgment. Again, Tuesday with Wednesday, Thursday with Friday. Shabbat has got no partner. The partner in time is us as human beings. So again, time and space are relative. It depends on my consciousness, how I perceive it. If you want later on, I once started to write a PhD on this. If you look at our palm, and we're not going to discuss it now because we'll never come out of it, there are different kind of lines, and each one is a timeline of my destiny, timeline of my mind, timeline of my heart, timeline of my life. The different timelines of the same hand. Before I can be now just born, I can be 20, I can be 50, I can be 100. Those timelines were always there already in my mother's womb before I came to this world. It's incredible. It's incredible. It's right there. So it's all in my mind, that concept. So somebody like Claria, let's give an example. Somebody like Claria Kadosh, he passed at 38. What he did in his life, we won't do in 500 years. I won't do. Maybe you will, I won't do. Some people live 100 years, and we're going to discuss it later, and they're little children. They never accomplished anything in life. And some days in your life are like 100 years from how much you're able to accomplish. The one who taught it to us is Abraham, our forefather. He says, V'Avraham zaken ba bayamim. Abraham was old. He came with all his days. He came with all his days, which means that he made sure that he completed every one of his days. When you listen to the disc at the end of your day, what do you hear? You hear a blah, white noise. Or do you hear some just noise, rap music? Or sometimes you can hear really some good stuff on your disc. Try to make sure that you fill that time that you were given with something meaningful that you do with your life. And then you make time count. This is very important. So far, so good. We're going to go a little bit deeper. This watch that I have, it costs $12 in Walmart. Okay. How does it measure time? Did anyone measure time? Says Professor Einstein, nobody, I'm quoting the greatest scientist of the 20th century, nobody can ever understand time. Time is only how much movement certain matter made. There are all kinds of things, goodies inside the gadgets. How much movement they make, we call it time. But there is no instrument around the world that can really measure time, but we only measure movement of material. What it means is that matter, space, and time, and our consciousness are all interrelated to each other, right? And only us make sense of it. I want to give you an example. If you read anywhere in the Bible, and I have, it never says a date. The only time it says date is because before there are any human beings. In the beginning, God created man. It was one day, day and night, and it was night, and it was one day, 2 days, 3 days. The minute that a human being appears like Adam, never again the Bible ever discusses time. It says, in the year 2005, there's no such thing. It only says, when Adam was 905, this is what happened. When Noah was 500 years, he had 3 children, and when it was 600 years, he built the ark. Everything is measured in the lives of human beings, meaning that we create history. Not that we are passive followers of floating through history, but the Bible innovates to us that we create history. We create history. We give it meaning. We give it meaning. So far, so good. A small break, questions, reflection, because this is a chunk, concept. Daniela, b'kasha.
Yeah, but the Bible, a human being wrote it, so it's not that it's the man that measures time,
Right,
and invents how to measure time or how to make a comparison of time because of human beings. There is no other way for a human being to say, like, as you said, in the beginning, there was such and such, and
very good question.
So it's...
Yes, yeah, very good question. So, but the question, so you make sense. You actually define the how you understand and what you were taught, and that's beautiful. That's okay. So Kabbalah actually teaches us, and we have by tradition that, and I will tell you a few things about it, which is very important, that even though Moses is the one who wrote down the Bible, the Torah, as we know it, there is no New and Old Testament, because by virtue of, I made a whole videotape today about, if we define the Old Testament as the source, and we do, but that definition cannot be the New Testament, because if in the Old Testament it says, don't eat pork, keep the Sabbath, and make circumcision, and the New Testament says no circumcision, eat the pork, and Sunday, so the New Testament is not a testament. It's a fake, but we'll discuss it some other time. That's not Kabbalah, that's philosophy or way of life, and we're making big wars with it. But your question is, who wrote the Bible? This is really the question, Daniela. Who wrote the Bible? L'chaim. So the answer is that she must be just coming with the terrorists home. So that's why I can hear the door. So she's gonna go online soon. And the answer is, we have it by tradition that God is the one who gave it over to, and it says it clearly in the Torah. It says, Moshe kibel Torah miSinai. He stood on Mount Sinai, and God dictated to him word for word, not only the 10 Commandments. Because if Moses says the 10 Commandments were given at the year 2448 to creation, how does Moses know to write whatever happened in creation? There was no human being around. Daniela, there was no human being at the time of creation. So how does Moses know? So he was a prophet. Okay, but someone must have told him. So we have a tradition, and that's where Judaism agrees. That's where Christianity agrees. Christianity says he got whatever this man's name is, which we all know, he got it by prophecy. Islam says Muhammad got it by prophecy. We know because 3 million people, 3 million Jewish people. We are all stiff-necked, Am Kshoref. We're all critical. We don't believe anyone. We, the Jewish people, the last people that believe anyone. That's why God made sure there was 3 million. How did I come to 3 million? 600,000 men between the ages of 20 and 60. Multiply this by ladies, 1.2 million. There are kids till the age of 20. Let's say 2 children per family, not more. Not Haredi family with 10 kids, 2 kids per family. And there are people older than 60, 100, 80. So we come down, and that's what plus minus the Gemara says, about 3 million Jewish people were standing to the feet of Mount Sinai. All of them saw. That's why God told Moses, go down. I never wanted to say you had some kind of a high-tech instrument, hidden procedure, how to you tell it to them. It will just be me. I'll dictate it to you, that you will never suspect and ask, well, maybe it's man-made, maybe it's man-made. And when we look today, and I got a book out today, right? Unfortunately, it's in Hebrew, but there are books in English as well, with #1 professor in the world on the subject. His name is Professor Eliyahu Pierce, who's a Nobel Prize winner on the codes of the Torah, the biblical codes, right? We bought that book together some years back, that there are so many codes in the Bible, which you go to later. You can find exactly what is the fate of Daniela, who is your husband, what is your, if you have anything, what is your date of birth? What are the major accomplishments you're going to make in life? No way it's above human logic to do such a thing. Sometimes the decoding there is every 10,000 letters. Who can do such a thing? It's above human logic. And it was taken to the FBI, it was taken to court in Washington, D.C., and it was discovered for a human being to write whatever is written there in the Bible, for a human being, the probability statistically that can be human is 1 over, right, 10 to the power 41, in other words, 41 zeros. It's impossible for any human intelligence to do this. No supercomputer can write such a book. So to make sure that this is right, we took Professor Art Lavit, he's an American Jewish chap who made immigration to Israel. He sat in the University of Jerusalem, our University Ivrit, and searched through the computer 5,000 books. 5,000 books, the Quran, the New Testament, Love and Peace, all the Shakespeare. He put them through this, he crashed them through the computer. Nothing came out, only junk. Nothing came out, only junk. The only book that ever made sense of it, was the New Testament. Not the Shomranim, and not the Koranim, and not the New Testament, and Lot, Love, and Peace, Avav Shalom, right? Nothing, just that. So we know today, scientifically proven at the FBI, that no human being could have ever written the Old Testament or the Bible as we have it till today, to answer your question in this way. Okay? Other questions, friends? Maya, Caroline, Shirley, Gil? We good?
You
Caroline.
say we said earlier about time, and this I am going to push against you. You said that since the creation of human beings, that time is only measured in human life, correct?
Yes.
But that's even in our parasha this week.
Yes.
That's incorrect, because it talks about 40 days, and it talks about in the 601st year, on the first day of the first month, the water had receded.
Yes,
from,
beautiful,
right?
beautiful, beautiful.
So this is not measured against people. This is not that I mean, I agree with you that time is a human construct, because we need to conceptualize things in a certain way. But in the Bible, it does measure time outside of human life.
Okay, very good. So let's use the example exactly, because I was sitting on the Parsha this today. So if we look, when it says to the year of 600 or 601 or 620, to what? Lechayei Noach, to the lives of Noach. That's exactly what I said. But it does say, right, and go back before, what does it say? When
that's the beginning
601
of the verse.
years to what? So if you look at the beginning of the Parsha, it says 600 years to Noach's life. Not 600 years arbitrarily or objectively, but if you look at the beginning of the Parsha, and I've been through this Parsha many times, no, seriously, humbly, and very humbly, Really? I'm a student just like you. I'm a seeker just
What are
like
you
you.
talking about? Like going back to Eila Todot Noach?
Yes, it will always say that because it just made short, but it will always discuss with time. Yeah, when it says 40 days. 40 days Moses came up to Mount Sinai. So we don't need to measure a year because it's only days. So the flood was 150 days, 40 days, great. But that's very short time. But when discussing years, it will always be measured, as Daniela correctly said, to the life of somebody, because we make sense of it. We make sense of it, of how much time has passed, right? How does, yeah. And check at the beginning of the parasha, which is a long parasha, Parashat Noach, it will always say, at the year 500, right, he had 3 kids, Shem, Ham, and Yefet. When he was 600, he built the ark. When it was that time, it was the flood. And it was 601, 1 year later, that's what happened. The flood stopped, blah, 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 and he opened the doors, and he sent the raven, and he sent the dove, and the rest is history. Okay. Next, okay. Maya, we good? Maya, Sherwood.
Oh, yes.
Landau. We good.
Yes.
There you go.
I like the part about time too. I'm absorbing that. I really like that.
This is very important. This is very, very important because it's how much you use of it. And you also see, sometimes people sometimes are very, very sharp and very fast, very brilliant. They can accomplish in a short time what others cannot in a lifetime. For example, Professor Albert Einstein, his IQ, I don't know, it was 200, 300, incredible. And some people, as long as they live, they'll accomplish less, which is not, it doesn't make them less of people. They can just accomplish less because of less of a quick mind. And sometimes people are very, very bright, but they've got a very lagging behind heart. As Dr. Daniel Goleman writes in his book, Emotional Intelligence, people that are very bright, many times we find as very poor navigator of their lives. I'm quoting, how much intelligence help you to succeed in life? He writes 20%, 20%. No, not big deal. Not big deal. So we still, all of us, at least me, I've got still hope. Not that bright, but I've got hope. Maybe I've got a bit of emotional intelligence. Next point is the world is an illusion. Now, many books have been written about it, especially in the last decade. And this is very interesting that Kabbalah discuss it. What does it mean? I will just give you a short experience of mine to understand this. When I was very young, so I made my immigration from South Africa to America, and I went to also visit NASA. Just 1 second. Shili, you want to add something? Shili? Shili? Yeah.
Can.
Please go ahead.
Just one thing, because Maya, right? Maya said something about the time and consciousness, to give her some herbs, tavlinim. The search for consequence, for being conscious. So we say the present time is really a present. So if you go to sleep and you wake up after 8 hours, like, whoa, 8 hours or 6 hours, whatever time go by so fast, and you can be in your office or somewhere, and you can, as you said, you can be very, very bored, and it's like, oh, it takes forever. So where our conscious is, this is how it determines how much we live in our present time. And the more we are conscious about the present time, it's become meaningful, and we're able to feel grateful and appreciating what we do have. When people live in the past, we call it avarian. This is your invention. So, because he's always dealing with the past, avar. When we talk about the future, is atidan. So we can't be in the past and we cannot be in the future. We need to be present, because of only today we can create and recreate and redesign our life, because we're not here to exist, we're here to create. So just the concept of time, very important to pay attention to it, because when you are present, just a second, when you are present, you are able to receive. When you're not present, it's like, you're driving your car, it's like, oh, how did I just came here? Or you hear something like, but you hear it, but you're not really listening, right? So the more we are present, we can kabel more. We can become a vessel. Just wanted to add that.
Beautiful. I would like to, by the way, if you want to, recommend my own humble experience. If you can see the movie, it's a beautiful American movie called The Peaceful Warrior with Nick Nolte. Peaceful Warrior. Daniela. Nick Nolte. It's a beautiful movie, Maya and Caroline, which is a real coaching movie, which is spiritual, of how to live in the here and now. It's a real story, Hollywood movie, beautiful, beautiful, of how to live in the here and now, to find your purpose in life. It's just incredible, really is. Peaceful Warrior with Nick Nolte. So I don't get any percentage from the shares of the movie. I just want you to enjoy yourself with it. So the next concept, which is incredibly important, and you'll find endless books about it, but we'll try to explain it in short. And again, I don't do justice to any of the subjects. I'm just a student like you. I'm giving you over from the Kabbalistic lens of how to look at it, is that the world is an illusion. What does it mean? So my personal experience is, when I visited NASA and thought a young doctor of astrophysics to work over there in my early 20s, which was last year, right? So when I was there, they showed me a fenced space, a fence. Oh, thank you so much. Shirley advertised that movie, I understand, at the bottom, right? Thank you so much. Now she's quicker than light. They fenced around something that looks like 15 feet of a table made of stainless steel, which was in said, please do not put your hands into this. I couldn't understand. I'm a young scientist, brazen and young. I say, why can't I put my head into it? I said, do not dare to touch that table. So as the operator on the side, which is a full-time 24/7 guard out there, why can't I touch it? He said, do you want me to show you? Yes. So he shut down the electricity, and that 15 feet table became a thin, narrow, quarter of an inch piece of steel. The vibrations were so high, about 5,000 times a minute, that to me, to anyone watching, it looked like one solid table. But it was no solid table, just a thin piece of stainless steel making up what to my senses appeared to be that. Science today says that when I recline my head now on the side of my chair, I really can feel it, and I feel very good. The table in front of me feels very solid. Sense science, nothing doing. It's 99.9999%, it's all energy. Only a very small little percentage is real matter. That's science. I'm not putting any Kabbalah into this. That's the absolute latest understanding of science for the last 50 to 100 years, and absolutely true. So the Greeks used to call the smallest matter atom, which in Hebrew, by the way, is atum, which means closed, sealed, black box. This is it. This is the smallest piece of matter. Comes quantum physicists say nothing doing. In that, we've got protons and neutrons. And later, we've got also electrons. We've got quarks. We've got neutrinos that have got no mass. And today in California, you already know that 99.9% of the universe, which scientists couldn't understand, what's holding this all together? It's called gray matter, or as we know it lately, it's called the zero field, right? The zero field, right? So this is all the greatest matter, no energy, no weight to it, but this is holding the whole universe together. We cannot see it, we cannot touch it, we cannot smell it, doesn't have weight, doesn't have color. And we call it in science the theory of the, how would you say meitarim in English? That would be like chords. It's like one huge vibration which vibrates a certain kind of a speed, a frequency. Very much, by the way, I've got it here, my box of crystals, like a crystal. You know, every crystal has got its own specific energy. The difference between these, it's all stone, semi-precious stone, but each one has got a different kind of energy. The same applies to matter. Matter finds science, and I want to labor you with it or elaborate because it's too heavy and not interesting now, or maybe it's interesting, but it's too heavy. Matter as we know it is not really matter. Science, Niels Bohr, the great astronomer, has proven all matter that we see is only an illusion. Really what it is energy. And Einstein, the famous equation, writes it there. E, which is energy, is equal to matter times the speed of light squared. In other words, everything we see is an illusion. This beautiful short session in science, right? We can go into this more to the depth if you like, But I especially made sure that I make it very simple, because I don't want to go into this unless you want me to delve into this. It should be your reflection soon. Where do we see it in Kabbalah? In the world, there's a book of creation. I told you, Sefer Yetzirah by Avram Avinu, and there he says, first of all, how do we call this world in Hebrew? Remind us again, Olam. Why is it called Olam? From the word He'elem. It is hidden from us. It's an illusion. And the sages of Kabbalah call it even another word, even a worse, kind of aggressive word. They say, Olam HaSheker, Alma Deshikra, the world of illusion, the world of delusion, the world of lies. Because what I see is not really the truth. I wrote a small post about it last week about beauty is skin deep. We see a person that might be the most beautiful person, physically, man, woman, dog. But seriously, it can be the most ugliest of personalities. And we have to live with that. So the world is an illusion. We go by that illusion, and that's what works. Arte. I'll give you a small example. I had a student in Israel, a woman. I'll tell you another story that the one that Shili doesn't know. A student in Israel, she was of age, she wanted to get married, and she was frum, she was religious, but she didn't find the proper potential chatan, proper potential groom that will marry her. So she decided to become anti-frum, or not anti-frum, but peel off away her outer shell, look like frum, took off her glasses, put on, whatever, contact lenses, and she got married within a few months. She got married. She felt that her outer image, this is not the world wants to buy. And I've got quite a few of my clients, customer patients, when they put the picture in their WhatsApp, that's 40 years ago, not from today. Why? Because we want to present a certain image. It's not really who we are. It's what we want to sell to other people. That's the illusion we sell. And that's how the world works. So this is what we can measure. Now, the question is that you have to ask yourself later when you think about it through the night, and that is, so what did God want us? He wants us to live in this world of illusion. What is the truth? He gave us a reality which is not truthful. So when I put my arm on this chair, can I really rely on it? Is it an illusion? No, it's the real thing. When I drive in the road, that's the real thing. When I go to sleep at night, when I put on the alarm, the walls here, this is just a dry wall, it's nothing. But the outer walls are really bricks. If the bad wolf will come and huff and puff, it won't break through. So what is the reality? Reality is what I see, and that's what God wants me to see, or the illusion, behind the illusion, the real energy form. What is the real reality? Before I answer, I want you to think about it and try to answer me. What is the real reality? What does God want me to do? To rely on this chair, to go with what I see, or to peel off the outer reality and say, no, I cannot rely on the reality I see. I have to see the reality beyond. I have to rely on energy and on mystical things. I can't rely on the physical world because it's an illusion, it's a lie. What do you think?
Well, I don't know if this is the real answer.
No, it's your thought. It's beautiful. Your thoughts are very good, Maya.
Okay, but for me, the answer is humbling myself in prayer and asking for help.
Very nice.
Avinu Malkeinu. All I know is that I don't know and that you do. Will you please help me now? Thank you.
Beautiful. Okay. Shirley, Caroline, Daniela, what do you think? There is no right and wrong answer. There is no right and wrong because it's my conscience that is involved, how I want to perceive it. So what do you think? I should perceive the reality as I see it, or I should try to peel it off and say, this is what it is?
So what's the tshuva? You want an answer?
Yeah, I want your answer. Yeah, your subjective answer. Yeah.
So everyone's answer, I believe it's according to who they are and how their kli, how their vessel, how they're becoming is able to see what they can see. If you ask a 3-year-old or 16-year-old or someone like me or someone much older, they will answer you according to who they are, according to their wisdom and bina in their life. And according to my understanding and who I am today, my reality is shaped according to who I need to become. So if somebody crossed me in the street or raise a finger, or if somebody is kind to me or something happened, for me, there's no coincidence. Something happened and I make sense of it, which means for me, God is speaking to me all the time. I don't need to meditate to speak with my angels. The reality is a reflection of what I need to learn and develop and to pay attention to, because awareness is the key, but it's only the key. How I'm going to respond to it is a different story. So the reality for me is I question it. I'm a seeker all the time. Why is this happened to me? Why I lost my glasses? Why I have pain in my ankle? Why? And according to my
Level of
understanding,
awareness, yeah.
I reflect and do something about it. Just being in existing mode is not where I am today. Never been, but yeah.
This is very important what Shirley says, that it depends on my level of awareness. And I will just give you an example of it. Again, I don't want to answer if it's true or not true, because there is no true or not, and who am I to say that's the truth? Everyone's got their reality. But the Baal Shem Tov arrived at a very high level, and he saw everything the way it should be as energy. And he said, I'm energy, and this wall is energy. And he meditated on it for a long time, and people saw him walk through the wall. So it's not just flash, in all kind of movies that you see, like science fiction. No, people walk through the wall. Our forefather Yaakov, and I once wanted to do a TV show in Israel about it, with the one who did the Big Brother, Ach HaGadol, right? And I suggested to him, but he was very scared how it was going to take the Israeli public of how to make Fitzatadeh, how to move yourself from here to there. According to Kabbalah, it's possible. Once we understand the relativity of time, once I understand I'm just energy and I can transfer myself into a hologram, I can be whatever I want to be if I'm at that high level of awareness. I don't
Are
say
we just energy?
What?
Are we just energy?
No, and that will open a very, very big other subject. But scientists, and I'm especially leaving it at where we know for 9-hour discussion, scientists are already doing, not only thinking about a hologram. According to science, you should know, I'm telling you something from the FBI. I never shared it to you before, Shaylee. In 1956 already, they discovered in the American intelligence and CIA the hologram, and according to what I read, and that's classified, they already moved objects from place to place only by the power of thought and mind, and made people from here to there disappear and be somewhere else at the same time, same space. Now we know Kabbalistically that many Kabbalists did that. For example, the Ariya Kodesh. 1 second he was in Damascus, second he was in Tzfat, or he was in Jerusalem. People know how to do it. In the new book of Rabbi Yitzchak Kaduri, that's all, who I happened to learn by many years back, I wanted to buy this book from his son. He said, no problem, it's $100,000. That's the price. I can't afford it. But he explains that Kabbalistically how you can do it. But it's a very, very high level. It's risky because you might get confused on the way and be left somewhere in Damascus with no visa between these terrorists. I don't want to be left in Damascus. That's not the place I'm going to aim to. But it can save a lot of flights. If I can go from here to Israel and not pay anything and not need a visa, it's a good idea how to transfer myself to Israel. But seriously speaking, what Shirley is giving us a solution, again, I don't say right or wrong, it depends on your level, because we said it all time and space depends on your level of consciousness. If I raise my level of consciousness to a higher level, then I can maneuver time and space and myself in it. Daniela, you want to reflect, I see. Yeah. You're good. Maya.
No, I was just actually listening.
We good? Caroline, question, answer. What do you think?
I was going to respond to your question, if you don't mind.
You want to respond?
Yes, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
I don't know if you want to move on.
I want you to respond. Yes, go ahead. Please.
So my answer is typically rabbinic, and that is both and neither.
What does it mean? Yeah.
So It depends on who I need to connect with. We don't live alone. We are never independent 100% in the universe that we function in. If I need to talk with a child, and a child can only connect with me in this physical world because that's their level of understanding, that's how I need to connect with the child.
Beautiful.
If I need to connect with an adult, and they are also only able to connect within the physical world, within this universe. If I need to connect with God, I can connect on a more metaphysical level. So it depends on who and what I'm trying to connect with and to, and what we're trying to accomplish together, whether it's a conversation or an argument, agreement, whatever else.
Beautiful. So this is one side of the diamond, which Shili also expressed. So to summarize, I don't want to take you too far because it is late, because it's too many concepts at once. So we're going to end after this, but I will give you somewhere from the Bible, from the Torah, which mentions it clearly. It says about Rachel, our foremother, she was Yefat Toar ve'Yefat Moed. Toar means mit'ar. Her outer shape, she was very, very pretty, beautiful. But the Bible adds another two words. Yefat Moed means an inner beauty. Who cares about an inner beauty? No, the Bible says, no, this is the most important thing. To explain this, I will give you a story which I did share with Shiri. Sometimes I don't remember everything, sometimes you don't remember the back toothpaste, you forget to tell, that's it. I have a friend in Israel. His first name is Ami, that it won't be Lashon Hara Chas v'Shalom. And he is a very, very handsome man because he was a model in Israel and a sergeant major and does many things. And he got married when he was very young to the beauty queen of Israel, which seemingly she happened to be beautiful, otherwise they wouldn't choose her. After 1 year, they had a child and he got divorced. He told me as follows, Gil, listen to me carefully. He said, I have never met an uglier person in my life. I said, excuse me? I never met her, I never saw her, but she's held to be the beauty queen of Israel. From 6 million people, 3 million of them are girls. How can she be so ugly? So he said, I lived with her. I peeled off the outer shell of the person. I started to see the inside. When you live with somebody, you don't see the physical anymore. You start to see the soul, the neshama. You start to see the spiritual. You see the emotion, you see the character, you see the reflection, you see the behavior. And this is the real inner essence of the person. He said, I got divorced out of it. He raised the child by himself as a singular parent. After 18 years, he found a woman, and I saw her. She happened to be much older than him. And that's the way that men look at it. I have to share with you. When she looks in the mirror, this is called the frog's disease. The frog's disease means when she looks in the mirror and the frog seems to be the same. But in other words, she's very not pretty. But when you speak to her, she's the most gracious woman. She's got inner chaim. She's really gracious. And when this tall man, a hunk, looks at her, he says, Putzi, Mutzi, my love. He really loves her, he adores her. Because it took him 18 years to make his journey from, like Caroline and Shirley said, to see the physical, to see the emotional and the real personality and peel it off. That's the only thing he sees. And he sees the most beautiful woman. And they have a child together, and he's the happiest of men. He really is. And he's in love with this, even physically, because that's what he sees. But it's a great deal of work. As Shirley said, it will take a lifetime, or Caroline said, of journey to peel this layer off. This is when it comes to people. What about when you buy yourself a nice car? You buy yourself a nice house. You want to wear new clothes. You work in a society where everything is important. Facebook, Instagram, everything is about advertising the most beautiful and coolest and youngest. Are we able to peel that off, this outer layer of the material, the illusion, and see it for the essence? Do we really need that next thing that's the neighbor has? Do we really need that Ferrari outside? Not that we have. Do we really need this mansion in Beverly Hills for $23 million? Do we really need it? So there's no one fit for all. Everyone will answer in a different way according to they are, and it will be good and okay for that person because that's where they're holding. To summarize, if I run a career which everything is about making more money, that's great. This is where I'm holding. But it cannot negate somebody else who sees spirituality is the most important thing in the world. I can't tell him, oh, you're such a nerd. Oh, you're not connected to reality. Oh, as long as he's surviving in this world, it doesn't depend on other people. And for him, this is the most important. And this is how he sees reality. That will be beautiful. And I will finish off with this. a young group of professors wanted to find the real meaning of life. So they walked up to a huge mountain, and they realized it would take them years to come to the peak of it. After many years, they realized this is the last day, and they already see the peak of the mountain from far away. They already say Shechian is going to be one day we're at the peak. Just before they arrive at the peak of the mountain, the last day, after many years, you see the long nails, long beards, all professors of philosophy. We arrived at the peak of the mountain of knowledge and awareness and of meaning. They see a young guy, about 14 years of age, coming towards them, all happy, says, "Hi, how you doing?" Says, "You're too young to be here. You cannot be here. We walked about 30, 40 years to get here. How can be you so young and right now be with us and you're so fresh and young?" What did he answer them? He said, "I was born here." Kabbalah starts where philosophy ends. It's not the same avenue. We can search and we can huff and we can puff many years. This philosophy, Kabbalah comes from the top and says, this is reality as it is. Now let's go back and try to understand it. Questions, my friends? Caroline, Maya, Daniela, Shirley, and all the others that we'll see later. Are we good?
Go beseder.
Yeah, thank you. That was really delightful.
Delightful. Thank you, all of you, for coming and sharing. Same time, same place next week. Please, God. No Chagim, done. Finished. God bless and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Bye.
Shabbat shalom. תודה רבה.